Yeah, so the only guy that that hasn't been on the injury, Demarcus Robinson will be limited. He had his groin a little bit, like I told you guys the other day, and then we'll get Laryl Murchison and Darius Williams back out there as well.
Coach, when you look at Tutu Alba, what is he doing differently this season as opposed to last year?
Really not much. I mean, he's improved. I think he's taken advantage of his opportunities. He's done a good job of being able to, make the most of the chances that he's had when he's been targeted, whether that be on some of the early downs or even third downs. But been pleased with Tutu the last couple weeks.
No injuries are part of Logan Bruss being where he's currently in, obviously. But where have you seen the most growth from him between the spring and now to trust him in a role?
I think just putting the work in. It's because he's been consistent. I think he's taken coaching really well from Ryan Wendell and from Zach Cromer. And he's just, I think the work works. And you can see a guy that has had a bunch of different experiences, but practiced hard, got a bunch of experience in the preseason that I thought he, was able to improve on. And then when he's gotten his opportunity over the last couple weeks, he's done well.
Did you say Darius and Laurel will be out there today?
They will be, yes.
What would you have to see to make them active, per Sunday?
I think it's really just them looking like themselves and, being able to just go cut it loose and play the way that you need to be able to play when you're playing in a real full-speed game. And so until you get out there in some of these practice settings, what they've done with Reggie and his group, that can sometimes simulate it, but there's nothing quite like getting out here on the grass in these competitive settings. And so that's what we'll be looking for, and we're hopeful that that'll be the case and it'll be helping us this week.
In terms of interceptions, those kinds of turnovers, have you guys had opportunities? Have you not had opportunities? And what do you think has to happen to get,
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to. You got to get into some of those situations where you're earning those opportunities to be able to rush. There was a couple of them the other day, but you look at it. I mean, they're all different stories. I mean, you look at the one that JJ made against Detroit. It was an excellent job. Being able to play visual, flashback, great instincts, and then great ability to be able to finish. And so it takes a lot. I mean, you look at on the flip side, Green Bay's done a great job taking the ball away. Xavier McKinney's a guy that seems like he's always in the right spot. But we always talk about rushing coverage going hand in hand, and to be able to get those turnovers, they've got to occur on pass downs. You got to be able to earn the right to get into more of those regulated pass down situations where those things can occur. And sometimes we've done that, and then oftentimes we haven't.
You said
look at a guy like Omar Spades or Jake Hummel, and they flashed, and you guys were really optimistic about them in the preseason. They were playing a lot of games at that time.
Sure.
You get into this setting where you're game planning and scout team, and they're not necessarily getting those live reps. How do you keep developing young players that you're excited about like that, and what does it take for those guys like that anywhere to earn an opportunity?
Well, I think those guys do get reps in these settings, and the preseason is somewhat similar but very different than the regular season in terms of the things that we're asking, the types of schemes that are being seen from the opposing offenses. And so you continue to give those guys opportunities throughout the course of these practices, and if it got to a point where we felt like that was the best option for us, then those guys would be out there.
you said Cooper won't play this week, but will he practice?
No.
When you're coming off a game where red zone efficiency is kind of a question, do you work more on those situations in practice this week?
You do, but you can't let the other stuff fall by the wayside, Adam. And when you look at going 1 for 4, there's so many things, and we kind of talked about that. Jordan asked about that earlier. We talked about it, and I could go on a very long-winded answer, but ultimately it boils down to decision making and execution. And it starts with, all right, are we putting the players in positions to be able to have success, and then with those opportunities or those decisions that we're making, is there an opportunity to execute at a consistent level? And I think when those two things are aligned, a lot of good things happen. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case the other day. And so it cost us. And really, it hasn't been just that game. We've been in the red area a lot. But there's a lot of different reasons. And, sometimes it's the run, sometimes it's the execution of the pass, sometimes it's recognizing a blitz and where's our quick element throw. And so the field shortens everything. The margin for error gets that much smaller. And so ultimately, all that being said, we have to do a better job, and that will be a big point of emphasis. But figuring out the right spots, that's something that we get to a little bit later in the week, but that will be something that we'll have an added emphasis on because it's cost us so far this year.
Sean, you were asked about, earlier this week, you were asked about last year's team, problem solving, I know you said it's a different team.
Yeah, well, we are, and I think in a lot of instances, that accumulation of guys working through the off season and into training camp, there was a build. We haven't had the luxury of that with this group, and so I think continuing to show what does it really look like, are we getting that rapport that was established where there was a consistency and a continuity really from the start to finish, really with the exception of Cooper from an offense, and then defensively it was pretty consistent throughout. And so that matters. What I am seeing are over the last couple weeks, there's been some bright spots. And really that is really only represented the first couple weeks that we've had a chance to work with the same group. And so you're learning as a coach. We're continuing to try to identify those things, and you want to see, the uphill trajectory, go uphill, if you will, during the season. But I don't think it's exactly the same. You can draw some parallels, but ultimately the guys are working, and they're doing a great job of everything that we ask. And I think sometimes we maybe can take for granted, do they really understand exactly what we're looking for, and are we painting that clarity to then go execute? And those are the things that we've got to do collectively together a better job of.
Sean, you've talked a lot about this red zone execution. Do you feel in the meetings now with this that you're almost, for lack of a better word, a sports psychologist, making sure these guys understand what's at stake? Is that accurate?
I think what it is, whether it's, faster starts, it all boils down to, energy edge and execution. And the enemy has a say in that, but that's not exclusive to the red zone. There's points that are at a premium, but there was other instances, if you just want to talk from an offensive perspective, where, we had chances, not exclusive to the red zone, to do what we're supposed to do, and big plays will probably be had. But you give Chicago credit, you give the defenses that we're going against credit, but I think what we're looking for is, good quality football, really from the first quarter to the fourth in all different situations. Certain ones have a little bit more at stake, but we're looking for consistent execution throughout the course of the game and really all situations, but particularly the red area.
Because Green Bay is such a prolific offense as well, when you play a team like that, does game planning also include ball control, thinking the old cliche?
Yeah, you have a way that, I think a lot of it is, all right, what's the flow of the game? How does it really unfold? You go into it with a certain way that you want to try to be able to, execute and play complementary football on all three levels, in all three phases, And so that's a part of it going into every single game, and based on what we feel like those matchups are, but you also have to organically be able to adjust and adapt based on, all right, this is maybe what we anticipate, but this is how it's actually unfolded. And so those are always things that we talk about, from the beginning of the week, leading up into kickoff.
Sean, a player like Cooper Kupp, does he turn into like an extension of the staff? Like, can he help players? And I mean, obviously you want him out there playing,
Sure.
But while he's not playing, can he help you guys in that
Oh
role?
yeah, and he's always been that. Whether he's out there, whether he isn't, he is an extension of the coaching staff. He's always providing little tidbits of information, and I think sometimes that player's perspective is something that can be so beneficial, because those are the guys that know and understand the intricacies of their experiences, and I think it resonates really with a lot of those guys.
Sean, you talked about
Last one,
limiting
guys.
the penalties. What's the most effective way to do that? Watching the film from last
Yeah, I
week,
think
or-
playing with the techniques, the penalties in particular, you're talking about illegal contact and some of the the PIs. Those are the things that we need to be able to avoid. Those are the things that have extended drives, and some of which we've gotten clarity from the league, and then other ones you're saying, all right, that's very clear. We're past five, we're making contact, we're grabbing outside of our frame, as opposed to staying connected to a player, especially when they get in and out of phase in some of their route transitions. But it's really playing with the techniques and the fundamentals that are in alignment with, being able to play competitive football, but not give a flag that extends drives that can be really costly. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.